What's up, everybody? UFC 326 is officially in the books, and Charles Oliveira is now the BMF champion in what I thought was a very dominant BMF title performance, but that was not a BMF title fight. So what I'm going to do is go through every single fight that went down on this card, react and give my thoughts, and we're going to hop right into this thing, man, because we got a lot to discuss. So in the main event, the highly anticipated rematch. Two OGs, two legends of the fight game. Both guys have been around for forever. Two fan favorite fighters. They are both BMF material. And I feel like a lot of fight fans must be new around here because this was not for the lightweight title. This was for the BMF belt. This was for the BMF belt, not the lightweight title. This is a WWE-esque belt that I absolutely love. I know a lot of fans out there really like the belt. I know people complain about it or whatever, but essentially the BMF title was created for fan favorite fighters to go out there and put on an absolute show, to put on a banger, put on a war, right? And basically the tagline that I had coming into this fight ever since this was announced was certified banger, dude. Certified banger. And this was a certified dud. This fight was terrible. For a BMF title fight, and there's so many people out there that are defending this performance from Charles Oliveira, and those are the same people that are ripping on Islam Makhachev and Khamzat Chimaev. Now, if this was a normal lightweight title fight, I don't have a problem with it whatsoever. Is it the most exciting thing, like when Khamzat did what he did to DDP and what Islam did to JDM? No. It's not the most exciting thing, but it's domination, and you're determining who is the best because it's for the actual lightweight title. This is for the BMF belt. It's essentially a gentleman's agreement to go in there and duke it out and put on a fan favorite fight. Now, Charles Oliveira does not deserve all of the blame here. Like, I know that people are out here, Charles Oliveira stuck up the joint, Charles Oliveira. Did Charles Oliveira kind of help the case? No. But the bottom line is Max Holloway's takedown defense was brutally exposed in this fight. Brutally exposed. But I feel like the people that are saying that Max basically was fraud checked are not necessarily being fair in the sense that Charles's ground game is just that dang good. That dang good. And in my breakdown coming into this fight, I did pick Max to get it done. But I said that if Holloway's grappling gets checked in this fight, because for as long as he's been around, he's one of the all-time greats, right? One of the greatest featherweights of all time, and we've seen Max in the UFC all these years. He's grown up right before our very eyes. He's an amazing striker. We have not seen him in there against an elite, well-rounded grappler before. We've seen moments where he could chuck off takedowns like he did in the first fight against Charles until Charles got injured. In the Brian Ortega fight, Frankie Edgar, like we've seen moments, right? Holloway took him, or Volkanovski took Holloway down. Holloway took Holloway down. You know, so there was those questions coming into this fight, and I said if this plays out on the feet, I think Holloway, he should be able to get the job done. But that's not to say that Charles Oliveira can't go out there and knock him out. And honestly, I think Charles Oliveira, the way he looked in this fight, he could have knocked Max Holloway out. That's the craziest thing about this whole thing. I think Charles Oliveira could have starched Max Holloway. He at least could have clubbed him and subbed him, for sure. The way that Charles looked in this fight, he looked fantastic all around, even on the feet. To me, he was outstriking Holloway in a sense. I know Max, at the beginning of the rounds was getting off a few shots here and there, a few little peppermint shots, right? He was landing a few good straight shots through the guard. But Charles Oliveira, man, when he would chase after him and land some of these big shots, you could see it had a serious effect on Holloway. And Charles Oliveira's ground game is just that dang good. So while people are like, well, Holloway's ground game is, brother, his grappling is zero, brother. He just got exposed. Like, yeah, he kind of did. But by the same token, Charles's ground game is just that good. Right, Charles's jiu-jitsu has always been elite, but his wrestling is now really, 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 really good. Really good. Really, really, really good. And by the way, just how great is Ilia Topuria? Shucked off Charles Oliveira in the grappling, got back to the feet and smoked him in a round. How great is Islam Makhachev to do what he did to Charles? Man, look how good Charles Oliveira is. That's my point. All these people out there, oh, Charles is washed. Discredit Ilia's win. Discredit this. Charles Oliveira is in no way, shape, or form washed. That's why I picked him to beat Mateusz Garbrandt and sub him. Look how good Oliveira is, man. But what I feared coming into this fight was the fact that Max's ground game, because again, there were a lot of questions about it because we really didn't know. You've seen sample sizes, but you don't truly know because we haven't seen him in there with a guy that has the skills of Charles Oliveira. And we can kind of assume and guess. But it turns out that my worst nightmare ended up coming true, and that was the fact that Max had zero answers for Charles's ground game. And I said if that happened, he was going to get ran over and dominated and destroyed. I thought Charles was going to be able to sub him. So I guess it's a little bit of a moral victory for Holloway knowing that he didn't get submitted. And his submission defense, to be fair, was really good. It was very, very good because when Charles gets your back and he gets you in these positions, like he literally is he's an anaconda. He's suffocating, right? He just wraps himself around you and he just slowly starts to constrict, slowly starts to coil up and dudes panic, right? And I saw panic on the face of Max Holloway, not so much on the ground, more on the feet than on the ground, which how crazy is that? How crazy is that? But the reality is this was a disappointing BMF title fight. Now, I want to be very clear that Charles Oliveira, he dominated Holloway. Like, this was a masterclass by Charles Oliveira. Dominated him. Literally every time Charles backed him up along the octagon side, got his hands locked, he took Max Holloway down with ease. Lifted him up in the air, dropped him on the deck. Like, that's just how strong Charles is, man. Backed by his technique. Right, and that's the thing about Charles is he's the most prolific finisher in the history of the sport, but he's just so dangerous. He's so dangerous. The way that he was chasing after Max in those few, brief moments on the feet before he would get the takedowns, like he was landing some big shots. Right, and it felt like it was the same round over and over and over again. It was like Charles would run right after him, bang a few leg kicks, knock Max off, balance a little bit. Holloway would, land a couple straight shots down the pipe, and then boom, Charles would land a shot, get a hold of him, take him down, and that's where the rest of the fight took place for the rest of the round. And it's a masterclass by Charles Oliveira, 100%, and I blame a lot of this on Holloway, too, for his takedown defense being that atrocious. And I understand that Charles is a high-level grappler, and it's just like Charles is just that good in the grappling department, which I think is a big part of what's going on here. But a lot of it as well as Holloway just had zero answers, man. It was very, very disappointing performance on the side of Max Holloway. So in the sense, you can't blame Oliveira for taking the fight to where he clearly has an advantage over Holloway. But the problem is this is the BMF title fight. And I know that there's fans that are new here and go, oh, well, you go watch another sport, man. This is MMA, mixed arts. That is not what the BMF title was created for. It's not what it was created for. Maybe you could blame the UFC in hindsight, seeing how good Charles is as a grappler and, seeing that Holloway's grappling is getting checked here. But this isn't what a BMF fight is about. That's the reality, right? Every BMF title fight that we've seen, whether the fighter wins or loses, it's a back and forth. It's a back and forth barn burner, or it's a striker's delight, or it's got some entertaining elements to it. This fight had very few entertaining elements to it whatsoever. I'm not saying that it wasn't a good performance by Charles. It was domination. And it was a great performance to go out there and do that to a guy like Max Holloway. Like, we've never seen anybody do that to Max. But it was the fact that it was for a BMF belt and what that belt is, right? Masvidal and Diaz. Right? You're going back and forth. You're getting into these wild exchanges. It's a barn burner, right? Masvidal getting the better of the exchange, but you get what I'm saying, right? Gaethje and Poirier. Gaethje and Holloway, which that fight, to be fair, wasn't, that was kind of just a technical pick apart by Holloway on the feet. And then in the final moments, we got the crazy KO, right? Holloway and Poirier, the back and forths on the feet, right? Holloway rocking him, Poirier, dropping Holloway. Like, this fight, to me, I guess it's just like Charles Oliveira. Like, he is a BMF, make no mistake about it. That just, to me, was not a BMF performance. It wasn't. So, in a sense, I'm not disappointed that Charles went out there and just dominated Max Holloway on the ground. I find that unbelievably impressive. It's just the fact that for the BMF title, that's not what we expect. It's not what we expect. And those are not the kind of, those are the performances, to me, that will ruin the BMF belt. That's just the reality. That's not why the BMF belt was created, man. It was meant for two fan favorites, which these guys are, two legends, two OGs, to go out there and deliver some sort of fun fight. And I get that people are going to blame Oliveira, but again, a lot of the blame should be on Holloway. Get the hell up. Get the hell up. And a lot of him not exploding, wanting to be reckless and get back to his feet is you might get submitted. You might get submitted. So I blame, in a sense, both guys here because I think Charles Oliveira could have knocked Holloway out on the feet. The Charles that I saw last night, man, he looked unbelievable. On the feet, he looked sharp. He was landing big, powerful shots. I mean, I saw a look in Max's eye when Charles would back him up along the octagon side that I had not really seen on Max's face. Charles's presence is felt in there, man. He's powerful, he's strong, and it was a domination, and it was a complete masterclass by Charles Oliveira. And he just completely kind of exposed Max's lack of ground skills. But by the same token, I feel like a lot of this is if you put a decent grappler in there, like if you put Saint Denis in there with Holloway, I don't think he does anything close to Holloway what Charles just did. So I don't think that it's like, well, Max can't grapple for anything. I don't believe that. I just think Charles is that good. I just think he's that good. And I understand, oh, well, if it plays out on the feet, then that heavily favors Holloway, which, to be honest, man, I don't think it does. I think it does lean Holloway because of the movement, and that's really where Max's bread and butter is. But with the Charles that I saw last night, dude, I'm telling you, am I the only one that thinks that? I think Charles could have starched Holloway on the feet. I think he could have at least hurt him bad enough to then get a club and sub. In the first couple of rounds, it was like, okay, he's taking Holloway's back, threatening with submissions, and okay, what do we have here? And then after that, it just kind of became where Charles would get him down, and then it's like, we're just stuck on the ground here. And Max, it just felt like was kind of holding on for dear life, right? Not wanting to get submitted. So in that element, Charles is actually looking to finish the fight. But it's just the fact of when we hear the BMF title, this isn't the kind of fight that we think of. It's not to say that like you can't necessarily grapple, and people are like, well, it's an MMA fight. Go watch kickboxing, bro. That's not why the BMF title, it's a gentleman's agreement, man. It's a gentleman's agreement that you're going to go in there and you're going to have a banger. And again, a lot of the blame on Holloway for having no answer for Charles's ground game. And again, and you can look at it and go, well, hey, man, Charles is just going to take the path of least resistance. Why take any damage, really, when you can go out there and just completely dominate Max in an area that you are clearly better? So I get all that. And I understand, like Charles, it was a dominating performance, all of that. And it was very, very impressive. Very, very impressive. I'm just saying when we think of a BMF title fight, that's not what we think of. And that's the reality. And people can sit here and cope all they want and, just kind of make excuses because it's Charles Oliveira. We all love Charles, man. We all love Charles. But if Khamzat or Islam fought for the BMF title, which I don't think that those guys fight for a BMF belt, what would people be saying right now? If they did that to Holloway, what would people be saying? Raul Rosas, what he did to Rob Font, if he was in this BMF title fight, what would people be saying? You see what I'm saying? So we just got to keep the same energy all across the board. And while, again, it's impressive, it's not that it's not impressive. It's very impressive. What Khamzat did to Dricus, very impressive. What Islam did to JDM, very impressive. You are exploiting a weakness in your opponent and you're taking the path of least resistance. Why wouldn't you? Even though it's not the most entertaining thing, just like Charles did here. I get it. But this, again, is a BMF title fight, man. This is a BMF title fight. This is one of those fights where, yeah, you kind of have a game plan, but you're kind of just, it's like a gentleman's agreement. You have to understand the assignment that you're coming in here to just slug it out and put on a fan favorite fight. And I understand, well, why would he do that and take it? Then don't take the BMF fight. Because this, to me, just completely, wrecked the BMF belt, man. Am I being too ridiculous or something? Because, again, it was, guys, I love MMA, and I appreciate the skills that Charles displayed, and I appreciate that he was able to go out there and dominate. That's so impressive what he did. I'm just saying for the BMF title, this to me takes a stock hit. It does. What are you going to do? Who's Charles going to fight now for the BMF? What are you going to do now? Is it just going to basically turn into another title fight? And it's well, at that point, then the BMF belt, it kind of loses all of its steam. Because what are you going to do? Oliveira versus Arman for the BMF belt? It's you might as well have him fight for a title then. You see what I'm saying? The BMF belt was basically a one-off to have two fan favorite fighters go in there and duke it out, man, and put on an exciting fight. So again, people that are all out here just blaming Charles, it's really not all Charles's fault. Now, I think he could have done a little bit more because, again, realizing that he was landing a lot of big shots on Holloway on the feet, and I don't think he respected Max's power whatsoever. I think he could have gotten Max out of there on the feet, man. That's the craziest thing about it. And that's why I'm being a little extra critical, because I think Charles could have hurt Max badly on the feet, man. I really do. I really do. He was getting the better of Holloway in a lot of the striking exchanges. Even though Max was landing, Charles was landing some big leg kicks, nasty, front kicks to the body, big shots in close in the pocket. So just shows how good Charles Oliveira is, man. I mean, he's the most prolific finisher of all time, one of my all-time favorites. Holloway, one of my all-time favorites, and this was my greatest fear. I thought if it played out on the feet, while I still gave the slight edge to Max, Charles is unbelievably dangerous, and he had the power advantage. He's a more dynamic striker. It's just the fact that he's a little bit more hittable than Max, but at the end of the day, Max's defense is overrated. He's very, very, very hittable. I think if Charles went out there and after the first round or two, he was not able to submit Holloway, and he said, F that, we're going to go out here and we're going to have a kickboxing fight, I think Charles Oliveira still would have beat Holloway. I wrote the way that Charles looked, man, that's why I'm being extra critical here. And again, this was for a normal, and I get that you could say, well, how does that make any sense? If this was for a regular title, whatever, it is what it is. It's a domination. You're out here to win the belt. I get it. But the BMF title, it's like a one-off, man. It's this WWE-esque element that the UFC introduced to the UFC. That's at least the way I look at it. I know a lot of fans look at it that way. Again, I'm not really like hating on the performance because, again, it was a masterclass and I appreciate the art of what Charles did. But by the same token, in a BMF fight, that's just where I'm like, man, our expectations are way different for the BMF belt. And I feel like, unfortunately, it took away a lot of the steam and kind of the excitement surrounding the BMF belt. But again, I mean, Charles Oliveira going out there and doing that to Holloway, it's a massive victory. It's a massive victory. And we'll have to see how things play out, right? Because he got smoked by Ilya in the first round. People are convinced with a different game plan that Charles could do something different. I mean, you never know. It's a fight. Anything could happen. But I just feel like it just shows how great Ilia Topuria is. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I mean, I would love to see an Oliveira versus Arman rematch. The problem is Arman has earned a title shot. But again, given Dana's comments in the post-fight presser, who knows what's going on there. Doesn't seem like things are going over very well between the UFC and Arman. But I mean, I would love to see a Charles versus Arman rematch, man. That fight was really close. That fight was a lot closer than what people remember, man. You know, Charles, to me, put Arman in far more danger in that fight. So I'd like to see that because outside of that, I think Charles literally smokes everybody else in the weight class outside of Ilia Topuria. And I think the Arman fight is competitive. I'm not saying Charles would beat him. I don't know. I'd have to think about it and really kind of, dissect it a little bit more. But I think Charles Oliveira in a rematch is a serious problem for Arman Tsarukyan. Now, could he go out there and maybe do something different against Ilia? Possibly. But I think that just shows how good Ilia Topuria is, man. But to go out here and do this to Max Holloway, there's no doubt that it was very impressive. It was total domination. And he just, again, it exposed the weakness in Max's ground game because we haven't really seen Max go up against an elite grappler. But it also displayed just how dang good Charles Oliveira is. So, in hindsight, I guess you could blame the UFC for making this the BMF title fight when Charles clearly had the significant advantage in the grappling. So, again, amazing performance by Charles in terms of the skill separation, taking advantage of, where he has basically a clear path to victory, completely dominated Max Holloway, and very disappointing on the side of Holloway to have zero answers for Charles' ground game whatsoever. And man, I'm telling you, if this fight would have played out on the feet the whole time, I think Charles Oliveira was going to knock out Max Holloway. All right, Caio Borralho versus Reinier de Ridder. I don't know, man. To me, it just kind of shows that the middleweight division, we got Khamzat, we have Nasruddin Imavov, we have Sean Strickland, we have Dricus du Plessis. Maybe off the top of my head, I'm forgetting somebody at the moment, but I'm trying not to. I'm just trying to go off the rip here. Those guys are like head and shoulders above everybody else in this weight class. RDR, it's been fun. The Flamingo Looney Tunes build with the striking and the slipping and tomfoolery, falling all over the place, tripping over his own feet. It's been fun. And I actually think that RDR put on a much better showing than what we've seen in some of his other fights, even the GM3 fight, even the Brendan Allen fight, obviously. But, I mean, I don't know, man. Like, this fight to me was just kind of disappointing. It was kind of a slop fest back and forth. Borralho's hands were unbelievably low. Right, and I figured that Caio would have the advantage out in space. He's got the faster hands. He's the better striker. And that's basically what we saw in this fight. And I can't believe that. Was this a unanimous 30-27 all across the board? It was. Decision unanimous. Holy smoke. So I think that they all gave it 30-27, right? Which is pretty nuts to me because I thought that Caio won round 1. I thought RDR won round 2. And then I gave round 3 to Caio. So maybe I have to go back and watch it to score it more from the judging angle. But I don't know, man. Like, this fight, I was just sitting there watching it and I'm like, these guys are nowhere near the top of the middleweight division, like those couple guys at the top. Obviously, Imavov just completely outscored and picked apart Caio Borralho on the feet, right? But you mean to tell me that either of these guys have a shot against Strickland, against Khamzat, against Imavov, against DDP? Like, I know Borralho called out DDP. I think DDP beats the crap out of Caio Borralho. So to me, that was kind of my big takeaway. I know I'm kind of being negative Nancy, man, but seriously, that was my takeaway from this fight is I'm like, neither of these dudes are beating any of those guys at the top, man. So I feel like this was a fight that kind of exposed just how good the top of the middleweight division is compared to everybody else. So, I mean, it was an interesting fight in the sense that the stylistic clash, right? RDR's style is goofy. He's got a very, I like watching RDR, man, because he's got a style that is very him. It's very unique, likes to get to the clinch, let the knees go. He just has these noodle arm punches, man. Everything's just noodly, right? There's just no sting on anything. The jab actually of RDR has gotten much better, right? And that's something I've been pointing out is that knee and the jab are his best weapons on the feet. And his striking's actually came a long way, believe it or not. His striking's gotten a lot better. Right? So I feel like if you ran it back, RDR versus GM3 now, and I know GM3's gotten a little bit older and a little bit more washed, but I feel like if you take this version of RDR and he fights the GM3 that he fought, when he made his debut, I think he would have ran him over and it wouldn't have even been close. So RDR's made improvements, man. But again, Caio Borralho is good. His ground game is good. His takedown defense is good. We've seen him do grappling matches with like Brennan Allen. We've seen his takedown defense hold up. In the UFC, his own offensive grappling. I mean, to put RDR on his back and be able to control him on the ground for a few minutes, I mean, that's very impressive. That's very impressive because we saw Bo Nickel, who's a really good wrestler, Bo Nipple, right, take down RDR, and RDR was able to bump, sweep, reverse position. So to go out here and do this to RDR, I mean, we knew that there was going to be a significant speed advantage, and I felt a pretty solid striking advantage on the side of Borralho, and then RDR was going to have to get the takedowns, was going to have to make it dirty, was going to have to make it ugly. A lot of what he did in the second round, but for a full 15 minutes, I didn't think that RDR would be able to do that for 15 minutes, and that's why I picked Borralho, to outscore him basically for what we saw in this fight. I didn't expect Borralho to really have any success grappling, though. That's kind of what surprised me a little bit, but on the feet, his hands were low, darting in and out of range. Both guys were slowing down, man. It was kind of a, high output type of fight, back and forth, grinding on each other, pause, up against the fence, wearing on each other. But at the end of the day, it was the speed of Caio Borralho and the striking to where he had a clear advantage, in my opinion. That's what we saw in this fight. But this, to me, I was just sitting there watching, and I'm like, man, the top of the middleweight division, they just beat both of these guys, man. I don't know. I was being a little bit of a hater watching this fight, just going, I'm looking for some new contenders in the middleweight division, and these are two names that people are throwing around, and I'm like, man, you never know, right? Styles make fights, but I was just looking at the top of the middleweight division going, those guys are all clearly a step ahead of these two. But either way, I thought it was a decent back-and-forth fight. I had it 29-28. Borralho, I did give RDR that second round, so I was kind of surprised at the 30-27 scoring. Rob Font, Raul Rosas Jr. I mean, I picked Raul to win the fight by decision, and again, it was come on, man, this is not a wrestling match. And again, we see fighters do this, and again, I keep saying again. It was very impressive, the fact that Raul was able to dominate Rob Font on the ground with the wrestling. And he exploited the weakness of Rob that we knew coming into this fight, which is the reality that while Font has shown to be a little scrambly, not the easiest guy to keep down and hold down, you can easily take him down. And that is why the UFC booked this fight. And a lot of the times it can kind of get in your head when you're making these predictions of, man, we see what the UFC's doing here, right? They see the hype. Raul's someone they're trying to push. Right? Industry plant, bro. Industry plant, right? They're trying to kind of catapult him into the rankings. They're giving him a favorable matchup. And a lot of the time, it's easy to the UFC, right? We saw them do this with Gaethje and Pimblett. They gave Pimblett, out of all the top guys, someone that they thought he could beat stylistically, even though it didn't happen. And then it kind of has you doubting this a little bit, man, are these OGs just going to shut down the UFC's game plan? Are they going to shut it down? And in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, I could see Font sprawling and brawling, getting to the feet and boxing up Raul. But the bottom line is Rob Font, to me, I mentioned it in my breakdown, he slowed down just a little bit. Just a little bit. And even in his prime, Rob Font, I don't know if he beats Raul, given, the version that we saw of Raul last night. But at the end of the day, Rob Font, to me, you didn't lose a fight, you lost a wrestling match. That's the reality, man. That's the reality. So I was impressed, though. Again, it's not that I'm not impressed by Raul. It's just when you're getting these takedowns and you're basically squeezing the life out of Rob Font and you're afraid to posture up and throw any kind of ground and pound. And you're just, Rob Font's moving around. There's hardly any strikes being thrown by Raul. There's almost no takedown attempts whatsoever. And you're getting into these dominant positions. I want to see you work, man. I want to see you work. I want to see you operate. And I understand that the most important thing at this point is going out here and getting the W. I completely understand that. But to go out here, and it was just a little underwhelming. It was disappointing, man. That's the reality. It was just disappointing. And I like Raul. Chee-wee-wee. I think he's fun. And the kid's only 21 years of age, man. Like, he came into the UFC, I mean, on DWCS, he was like 17 or 18 years old, right? And he's getting better and better every single fight. I mean, his striking, that was my big takeaway. And I said coming into this fight is I'm not surprised that he just ragdolled Font around with the wrestling. It was the fact that his striking has gotten a lot better. He really didn't take any clean shots from Rob, and we know how good of a boxer Font is. He's got a nasty jab, throws good combinations. He's a tricky customer on the feet, man. And Raul's striking has gotten a lot better. It's gotten a lot better. I would have liked to have seen some more urgency on the floor, though, man. I wanted to see some submission attempts, and I know Font is a hard guy to submit. I understand that, and he's very durable as well. And I'm not saying Raul needs to go out there and, take all these chances, because the most important thing is going out here and getting the W, obviously, to get yourself into the rankings. I get that. But it was underwhelming, man. It was disappointing. And again, Font didn't really lose a fight here. He lost a wrestling match. Raul just kind of ragdolled him around with the wrestling. And that's why I picked Raul coming into this fight, because there was a skill gap in that department. And Raul is only, 21 years old? He's getting better and better every single fight. To me, he makes these rapid improvements every single time. To me, his wrestling looked better. His gas tank looked better. And I feel like his striking, even though it's not like, I'm not saying it's great or anything like that. I'm not saying he's an elite striker or something, but I feel like his striking compared to where it was when he first came into the UFC, I feel like it's gotten much better. And I think if you run that C-Rod fight back, I think Raul would absolutely dominate him. So just shows the improvements of Raul. And again, this was I would say like kind of a bone that the UFC threw Raul here, giving him a very favorable stylistic matchup. The UFC knew what they were doing by booking this fight. And again, this is a scenario where the UFC gets what they were looking for. And Rob Font, to me, man, he's a dangerous customer on the feet with the boxing. Raul did what he had to do to get the W, but still, I would have liked to seen some more ground and pound, some more striking, ground and pound posturing up, looking to advance some positions. I know that they were getting some fun transitions and taking the back, looking to submit. I don't know, man. I don't know. I was just disappointed in what we saw from Raul a little bit. Impressed by, what he was able to do to Rob Font. Make no mistake about it, and he clearly won the fight. Just, I want a little more action, a little bit more ground and pound. Drew Dober, Michael Johnson. We all knew that this fight was going to probably end in some sort of knockout, and Drew Dober ends up knocking out Michael Johnson in the second round with a beautiful straight left hand down the pipe. And Michael Johnson fought a really nice first round. The speed was on display. He was stinging Drew Dober up. Drew landed a couple shots here and there. But the minute the second round started, it felt like Dober had made his reads. He was putting the pressure on, fighting behind the high guard, moving forward, and just kind of marched right into range and didn't really have a whole lot of respect for what was coming back his way from Johnson at that point. Just sat on the left hand, threw it right down the pipe, and brutally knocked him out. That was a nasty KO by Drew Dober. And we know that that's what Drew's capable of. I favored the speed of Johnson in this fight, but we knew that I felt like someone was getting knocked out. And I said a second round KO regardless. And Drew Dober goes out there, brutally knocks him out. And again, probably a big opportunity lies ahead for Drew Dober, man. He goes out here and takes out another OG of the game in Michael Johnson, and we knew that this was going to be a striker's delight. Back and forth type of matchup. Johnson looked good at the start, good straight shots down the middle, was tagging up Drew Dober, but I could see Dober starting to make his read, starting to apply that pressure, and eventually got to Johnson with a nasty KO. Great win for Drew Dober, man. And that was a highlight reel KO. And then Gregory Rodrigues, man, another nasty KO. Straight right hand down the pipe, knocking out Bruno Ferriera. This, to me, was the most impressive performance of the entire night. And the reason that it was the most impressive performance of the entire night for me, in a sense of like a finish, the reason that this impressed me so much was because of the fact that when you get knocked out by somebody, right? Bruno Ferreira brutally flatlined Gregory Rodrigues in the first fight. To come back a few fights down the line where both guys have gotten a lot better and to not really show any type of concern, to really not have that mental barrier just kind of looming over you, and to go out there and knock out the guy that brutally KO'd you in the first round, you do the same to him to get your get back. Like, I find that unbelievably impressive. Robocop was as cool as a cucumber in there, man. He was methodical. He was patient. He was tactical, right? He was kind of moving and grooving around the outside. I'm like, what's he doing, man? I feel like he's going to pull Bruno into something, right? Kind of throwing out some feeler kicks. And man, Bruno was getting aggressive. He was going to have to close the distance. He's switching stances. And right off the stance switch, bang! Gregory lands a nasty straight right hand right down the pipe. What a missile. Heat-seeking missile. Absolutely flatlines Bruno Ferreira, man. That was nasty. And again, To get knocked out by the guy and come out with supreme confidence, to be that calm and collected, man, that is sensational. That's spectacular. Because again, when you get knocked out by somebody, it's like kind of these, it's almost like fighters are talking, man, you got to get over that mental barrier. Like, this guy knocked me out. Maybe he has my number. Right, we're coming into this. He's got power. He's been on a crazy win streak as well. He's been knocking down everybody the UFC's putting in front of him. But again, Robocop's made improvements. And those improvements have not, his striking has improved and gotten a little bit better, but a lot of it is the patience. And that was why I picked Robocop in this fight by KO. I think I picked him by KO. I think I said second round, so I was off on the round. But I figured it was the patience. The patience was going to pay off, and he was going to walk Bruno Ferreira into something. I thought that Robocop was going to be more on the front foot, though. So that surprised me a little bit. But the patience paid off. Robocop, man, this was a massive victory. To get his get back, he's been racking them up, looking better than ever. Great performance by Gregory Rodrigues, man. That was a nasty KO. Cody Garbrandt, Long Xiao. This was the drama of the night. The dirty little cheater, Long Xiao, who again was winning the fight up 2 rounds. And to me, I still thought Long Xiao won the fight, but I'm happy because I picked Cody Garbrandt and I wanted him to win the fight. And after all that was going on from Long Xiao, I wanted Cody to definitely win the fight. The reality is, Cody Garbrandt, to me, this was the most pathetic Garbrandt performance that I have ever seen, and I think he should retire. I think he should retire, man. Now, again, he was hitting the nuts, man. He was throwing up. What do you expect of him? Cody Garbrandt looked rough all the way up until that point. Even up until the low blows. Even up until the fouls. Even after the fouls. Garbrandt was acting all pissed off. I'm like, we're gonna get a prime Garbrandt. We're going to get a moment back in time where Cody's just going to run across the octagon. We're going to get a slugfest in the pocket. And I think Cody's going to catch him or Cody's going to get caught or whatever. And all that energy runs across the octagon, throws one combination, and then ran around the octagon the rest of the round. And I was like, Cody literally had all the opportunity to go out there and steal the 3rd round to win the fight, and he's still going to end up losing. And by surprise, he gets the decision. And I'm glad he did. I feel like the judges were like, F it, man. We're not giving Long Xiao the decision after all that. All the cheating, all the low blows, all the this, the that's. And, I mean, I would cut Long Xiao from the roster if I was the UFC. I couldn't stand the antics, the pointing, all the nonsense going on. He kicked Garbrandt in the nuts multiple times, kneed him in the nuts multiple times. And at a certain point, it really did feel like it was getting intentional. It felt like he was trying to get in the head of Garbrandt, trying to rile him up, get him to do something dumb to where he could catch him or something. So I'm happy Garbrandt won this fight. Did I think he won the fight? No, I didn't think he won the fight at all, but I'm glad he got the job done. So, and I think the UFC should get rid of Long Xiao. I couldn't stand the antics. I couldn't stand the fouling. And again, I think a prime Cody Garbrandt would have folded Long Xiao in the center of the octagon like a lawn chair, man. Like, it's crazy to see kind of the fall from grace that we've seen with Cody Garbrandt. That's the reality. Cody Garbrandt at one point when he fought Dominic Cruz, man, that was literally one of the greatest performances we've ever seen. And to think, fast forward these years down the line, did you guys think that Cody would be in this position to where he could barely get past a Long Xiao? And I think Long Xiao's okay, but I mean, a prime Garbrandt he's one of the best bantamweights that we've seen, man. Like, especially when it comes to the speed in the boxing, man, I don't think Garbrandt, like a prime Garbrandt, would do very well against the top of the bantamweight division now because bantamweight's gotten a lot better. But you get my point. This Garbrandt's not the same guy. And I feel like a lot of it is he's afraid to get rocked, man, because after the Dillashaw fights were kind of the undoing and kind of the downfall of his career, so to speak. He got into these barn burners, was getting knocked out by Pedro Munoz, getting into these scraps and these firefights. And now he's so afraid of that because he doesn't want to get knocked out. And I get it. I absolutely get it. But the minute that Long Xiao landed that high kick, which it felt like in the past, that's something that would knock out Garbrandt. Somehow Cody ate it. I think he was kind of putting on a poker face. I think it hurt him a lot more than what it kind of led on. But the reality is, man, Cody is not the same guy, and I feel like he's so gun-shy. I mean, he doesn't even throw a jab anymore, man. Like, he doesn't let his combinations fly. He doesn't really do a whole lot other than running around the octagon, mixes in a few takedowns, a few leg kicks here and there. Cody, to me, is very much a shell of himself, and I feel like he should retire. He's very much a shell of himself. Very much, man. So, again, I didn't think he won the fight, but I'm glad he did. I'm glad I got my pick right, and I'm also glad that he won because Long Xiao, I mean, that was a disgraceful performance. All the cheating, all the low blows, Herb Dean did a good job reffing this fight as well. But again, with Garbrandt vomiting, I'm pretty sure that I was seeing something that should have been a DQ or something. So not quite sure there. But either way, shout out to Garbrandt for continuing, being a BMF, going out there doing what he had to do. And, staying in the fight and getting the job done. So, again, it's just crazy to see kind of the fall off of Garbrandt because I think a prime Cody would have destroyed Long Xiao, man. So, clearly to me, Garbrandt is very much a shell of himself. Donte Johnson, Cody Brundage. I'm completely out on Donte Johnson as a fighter. I am completely out on him. And I know that you could say, okay, man, reactionary, you're being a little dramatic. I'm completely out on Donte Johnson. I don't know if it's because the fight went on longer than what we've seen in the past of Donte Johnson's fights. And I think that Donte obviously is going to get better. He's very physically strong. He's a great athlete. He's got crazy power. His fundamentals on the feet, I didn't realize how sloppy they were. I don't know if it's that I wasn't paying close enough attention to Donte Johnson with the striking. I don't remember him being that straight up in the air, not having his feet under him whatsoever, being that kind of wobbly on the feet to where he's just very off balance, falling over his feet when he's throwing punches. It was sloppy as can be, man. It was sloppy as can be. And Cody Brundage, in my opinion, I picked Donte to win the fight. Cody Brundage should have won this fight. If Cody Brundage had any bit of urgency and any bit of a fire in him, he could have easily have won this fight. Easily have won this fight. But that's why you can't pick Cody Brundage, man. You can't rely on him to bite down and make things happen if the fight is close. That's the reality. But Donte Johnson, man, the hype came to a halt tonight, or last night. It came to a halt. Absolutely. Donte Johnson's powerful. He's athletic, and I think he'll get better and improve. His defense is awful. His chin is on a platter. He's very stiff on the feet. I don't like the way he moves. I don't like his defense. Obviously, he can knock anybody out with his power, and his ground game, I think, has gotten a little bit better. He was defending some of those Cody takedowns after, he got taken down and dominated in the first round. Brundage was tagging him up on the feet, man. And I know Cody Brundage is not like a complete, he kind of wilts in a lot of his fights, but for that burst that you get from Brundage, he's actually kind of decent, right? His wrestling's all right, his striking, to me, it was more technical, and he was actually landing some really clean shots. But the reality is the fire doesn't seem to be there for Cody Brundage anymore, and that is why Donte won this fight. He wanted it more. He was doing more, especially as the fight started to play out. But to me, Brundage is going to watch that fight back going, man, I should have won that fight. Because Donte Johnson, to me, the hype is gone, and I'm completely out on him. I don't think I think the hype is not warranted anymore. So again, he's fun to watch, very dangerous, whatever, but I think he got exposed quite a bit in this fight in terms of the technique being so sloppy. Ricky Turcios, Alberto Montes. The featherweight division has a legit prospect on their hands in Alberto Montes. I knew that Alberto's ground game was really good. His submission skills are nasty. His anacondas, his darces. I mean, he is literally a suffocating serpent on the ground. He is a snake that coils up, and when he gets a hold of you, he just absolutely constricts and can get you out of there. So I wasn't surprised that he submitted Ricky Turcios because that's what I thought would happen in this fight. But I was actually really stunned by Montes' striking. His striking I knew was good. It's way better than what I saw on tape. Because again, when these fighters are, they're not in the UFC, this was his debut, right? He had the DWCS fight. We got to see some striking there. You watch some of his other fights, you really don't see a whole lot of striking, right? Because there's not a whole lot out there on him, and a lot of it's just him submitting dudes, and you're like, I see a right hand here and there. Man, none of that did any justice for his striking. His boxing is really good. His defense is sound. His fundamentals are perfect. The technique is tight. Everything comes from where it's supposed to. I am very high on Alberto Montes after that performance. And I know Ricky Turcios is not, a world beater. He's moving up to the featherweight division, and Ricky Turcios is always a guy that, to me, has just never been that great. But he still is, kind of in a way decent, right? He's got a motor that doesn't stop. Puts out a ton of output, continues to move forward. He's got a decent ground game. His striking is okay. He was kind of stomping and, right, trying to scare off Montes. None of that worked. I don't know. It's like he was trying to scare a bear away or something. I don't know what he was doing. Ricky Turcios is a weird dude, and I figured Alberto Montes would dominate him on the ground. But to see how crispy and clean Montes' striking is, I'm all in on Alberto Montes, man. That was a sensational debut and a statement type of performance. Because while Ricky Turcios is not, particularly great, not an easy guy to put away whatsoever. That was a very dominant win by Alberto Montes. The striking was very impressive in this fight, and his submission skills are next level, man. Nasty prospect here. Cody Durden, NT, Niam Jargel, Tumendemberel. I mean, man, Cody Durden's completely washed. But at the end of the day, his game plan sucked. I feel like if he would have kept it on the feet, I actually think he could have had more success, right? He was chasing the takedowns, leaving his neck out there, was getting out-scrambled, especially as the fight started to play out. And he actually was having some success on the feet. And I understand that Tumendemberel is dangerous. He's got the power. He's the youthful guy. He's the one with something to prove. Durden's the one that's been kind of getting chinned, and his durability's in question. We saw, I think it was at the end of the second round, he was landing some good shots with his hands. Cody Durden. Right, and I feel like on the feet, while Tumendemberel is dangerous, I felt like Cody, if he could have pressured him up along the octagon side and let his hands go, I feel like he could have found success there. right? Going out there, diving on takedowns, or trying to wrestle and not do a whole lot with it. I'm like, man, you're not going to win this fight. You're not going to win this fight against a young, hungry guy who's dangerous, has submission skills, has some power. So at the end of the day, I mean, NT was a good performance. Went out there, just kind of balled on Cody Durden. And I was kind of, again, Cody Durden's always going to go out there and give it his all. And I mean, that's exactly what he did. But I don't know, man. I feel like his game plan was a little rough in this fight. I think he should have tried to strike a little bit more, man. I don't know. I didn't like the game plan. Sumudaerji versus Jesus Aguilar. I mean, Sumudaerji, right? I don't know why I picked Aguilar, man. I should have picked Sumudaerji. Broke this fight down basically saying that if Aguilar gets 0 grappling success, he's getting outscored because of Sumudaerji. He's a slick striker. He's got the range, the speed. I just felt like Aguilar would be able to land some power shots, mix in the takedowns, be able to get him down, threaten with some submissions here or there. But Sumudaerji's takedown defense has gotten so much better. His movement's good. His striking is clean. It's fast. And Jesus Aguilar, I mean, we know that he kind of dips his head and gets a little wild. He was way too wild in this fight, was struggling with the range all night long. Masterclass type of performance by Sumudaerji, just easily outstruck him. Rafael Tobias versus Diyar Nurgaje. I mean, I'm glad that Diyar was able to get a win because he was a guy that had a little bit of hype coming into the UFC and things just haven't looked good. But my biggest takeaway is Rafael Tobias is nowhere near UFC caliber. How in the world you come out here and you literally stand at kickboxing range for dang near 15 minutes against Diyar, who has, in my opinion, the technicality advantage at range, especially with the striking, and you don't even look to push the action and get to the ground? And then you get him to the ground. I think it was in round 2. You have him completely flattened down on his back, a guy that has shown he's clueless on the floor, especially if you can flatten him out and you somehow lose the position. This was just such a rookie performance by Rafael Tobias, and I was completely disappointed, man. Blown away at the fight IQ. A horrible fight IQ. That's my takeaway from this fight. And again, Diyar was a good performance. Kept him at range, was picking his shots well from the outside, was able, to stop the takedowns, and even if, well, not really stop him, when he got taken down, he was able to find a way out. Right, and a lot of that was Tobias just being a rookie, losing position. I don't know, man. I expected a lot more from Rafael Tobias, given what we saw in DWCS, given what we've seen prior to the UFC. Again, a good win by Diyar because to me he was the more technical striker, and I felt like if this was on the feet the whole time, that clearly would favor Diyar. I don't understand why Tobias was not pressing the grappling from the opening bell. That was a very dumb game plan, in my opinion, against Diyar. I don't get it whatsoever by Rafael. Terrible debut. And then Luke Fernandez versus Adolfo Bellato. These contender series guys, man, a lot of them getting checked right away in the UFC. Luke Fernandez coming out, establishing the jab, landing some good straight shots down the pipe, picking apart Adolfo Bellato, and then Bellato doing what he does, man, being that kind of glass cannon where he gets hurt easily, but then again, he's not easy to put away. You can sting him, but then he just keeps coming back like a zombie, and then landed that short left hook in the pocket, was able to drop Luke Fernandez and get him out of there, was ripping some nasty shots to the body as well. This was just a good, gritty, savvy veteran type of performance by Adolfo Bellato, and again, very disappointing by Luke Fernandez. And he was kind of teeing off, right? And his striking's actually really clean for a guy that, has a wrestling background and is kind of green in the fight game. His strikings came a long way. I thought he would be able to stop Bellato, given how bad Bellato is defensively. Fernandez has got some precise striking. I was disappointed in what we saw from Luke here, man. He started to also look like he was slowing down after the first couple exchanges as well. So I don't know, man. These Dana White Contender Series guys are coming in and they're getting checked right away. So again, it was a good performance by Bellato. He was able to take advantage of kind of the rookie Luke Fernandez here. I see potential in Luke Fernandez. He's clean. He's technical. Got to work on the gas tank. Again, the UFC jitters. It's your debut. I saw some positives for Luke, but at the end of the day, man, it was still disappointing because I feel like the UFC was trying to get Adolfo Bellato up out of there, especially after that acting job that we saw against Paul Craig. But if you guys enjoyed this video, do me a favor, please give it a like. Let me know what you think down in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you do not miss an upload. I would greatly appreciate it. I will see you next time.